Let's see if this is going to work here. Microphone test. Okay, well, the audio seems okay. Hope everybody's doing all right. This is an experiment, y'all. I'm just playing around with some of this stuff to see if what's viable, see what's possible with, this whole system. I'm just messing around with this for now, kind of playing with settings and things like this. So let's see. Whoa, there we go. The Sky Safari Pro animation is so glitchy. Um, I'm just doing some experimentation to see if I can get it working better, get it smoother maybe. This is real time though. This would have been real time for July 19th, 1969 at 2:45 p.m. This is where the guys would have been in orbit around the moon. Let me do some testing here. And the audio, I guess, is pretty good. If you guys can hear the audio, let me know. And right now, I'm gonna go share this to the Book of Faces because the Book of Faces was really glitchy. I'm not exactly sure why, but Facebook was not happy with me streaming the the live stream thing here. Let's see. Post this on Deep Sky Dude on Facebook. Let's see if I can break the internet today, just by, or maybe just my computer will break. I don't know. I don't know. Let's just see what happens. Okay, so this is so funny. I can make the whole command module just disappear if I just turn it. Look at that. You can see Earth right over here. You got the moon, obviously. We're about 1,200 miles above the surface of the moon in this particular simulation. Probably just going to broadcast this for a little while and work out the bugs as I do. Not exactly sure why Facebook had some audio issues. I think it may have actually been my audio interface. So I'm going to work on that guy, and because I definitely need that for recording music, of course. Pretty cool to see this or see the moon from this perspective, and kind of get an idea of what the guys on board would have seen. Pretty cool stuff. Let me see. Turn the moon. There we go. There we go. So to orbit around the spacecraft, sometimes you have to do some weird stuff, and that part was no exception. There we go. That's a way better view right there. You got Earth in the background. You got Saturn hanging out over there. The moon taking up most of the field of view. I think we've even got Orion down here, maybe? Yeah, look, Orion's down here. Venus. Venus is over in the constellation Taurus. You can see the V right there of Taurus. And the Pleiades right here. The seven sisters hanging out. And this gray line right here is the orbit of the moon around the Earth, which is pretty cool. So you got some winter constellations. You got Venus, you got Saturn, the Earth. Back over behind us, you've got the Sun and Mercury over there together. Uranus and Jupiter and Pluto chilling out over by Coma Berenices. There's a lot of planets in this field of view, or at least in this particular orbit, part of the orbit, which is kind of neat. I'm going to work on getting these live streams a little bit tighter, guys. These are all just fun little experiments that I'm doing here. I don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to live streaming simulation software like this, so it's all a big experiment. If y'all know how to do some of this stuff, send me a message either through Deep Sky Dude on Facebook or on Instagram. You can find me at all those places at Deep Sky Dude. And so, if you have some insight that maybe I could employ here, I'll make it worth your while, whether it's a swag bag or some kind of cool stuff you get in the mail. That'd be really cool. I'm just playing with it though. I'm working on getting OBS installed, and I've already got it installed, but for some reason I'm having audio issues on that as well. I'm not exactly sure what the problem is, but it is what it is. In the future, when I get OBS working with all this stuff, I'll be able to commentate or put commentary, whatever the verb is for that, kind of like I'm doing now, just talking here and there. And on top of that, I'll be able to broadcast a little bit of music under it as well, some light background music. And what I'll do for that is just use the album I put out in April, Deep Sky Tunes Volume 1. Just broadcast that out here. And I think that'd be pretty cool to have a little bit of background music, a little bit of commentary every now and again, and just run these simulations. Like I was saying in my other broadcast, these Apollo missions, we're at the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11, which if we were 50 years into the past right now, this is where the dudes would be at 2:56 p.m. on July 19th today, right now. We're just with this simulation, we're 50 years in the past. So we can actually see where they were, at what times, what they were doing. They entered lunar orbit, I believe, around 12:30 p.m. Central Time. And so, you know, technically they've been in orbit for, 3 or so hours around the moon. Today would have been the day that they entered the lunar orbit, which is it was a Saturday back in 1969. Today it's a Friday, and but yeah, this is where they would have been at 12:57. I can actually show you guys this. If you look right over here, you've got 2:57 p.m. on July 19th, 1969. And kind of pan around here. You can see the Milky Way stretching across here. This is kind of the boring side of the Milky Way, if you will, if there is such a thing. Got a few recognizable constellations here and there. If I can fit Earth in there. So we got Earth, obviously, down here. We got Lyra, the constellation Lyra, with the star Vega. That star right there, the bright one right there, is 25 light years away. Pretty cool. This is the constellation Cygnus, which is the swan. You can see the wings of the swan here. Deneb is the tail. And Alberio, which is an awesome double star right here. That's the head of the swan. It's pretty cool. But again, yeah, I was doing this simulation on Facebook, and Facebook just wasn't having it. Facebook was really upset at me for doing this. Um, I'm assuming there's a frame rate issue, or you know how it is. There's just all kinds of things you got to be aware of when you're doing these live streams like this. So it is what it is. Again, in the future, I will be getting OBS working and get all that stuff real tight so that I can do more live streams like this in the future. Because I'd love to be able to use Sky Safari to, do a little live thing about how the planets move around each other. Something even as basic as all that. Because until you see it in a simulation and you hear somebody kind of talking about it, some of that stuff just doesn't. It's not necessarily obvious, right? You know, we know the Earth orbits around the sun, and we know the moon orbits around the Earth. But what we may not know that's immediately obvious is that the moon's orbit is not perfect at all. It's not a perfect circle. So as the moon sort of orbits around the Earth, it kind of comes in, and then on the other part of its orbit, it goes out a little bit. Um, it's got kind of an irregular orbit. It's not a perfect circle; it's an ellipse, and that ellipse changes over time as it shifts around. So there's times where you get what's called a supermoon, right? We all know that from the good old media telling us what the supermoon is. Um, and That is just a full moon when the moon is at perigee, which means the moon is at its closest orbit to Earth. When it's at apogee, then it's not a supermoon; it's a unsupermoon. I don't know. I don't know what they call that. I don't guess the media has a name for a moon that's not super. It's just a moon. Technically, there's every month there's a super moon. It just depends on the phase of the moon. Sometimes when the moon is closest to us, it's in a crescent phase, or maybe it's in the new moon phase, or whatever. It just depends. Like I said, that ellipse that the moon is orbiting the Earth in is not perfect. It's always kind of changing. So there are times when the moon is closer and further away, and that's how it goes. The moon takes 28 days to orbit the Earth once. And it also rotates on its own axis every 28 days. So if you were to land, like, say, this big crater down here below the Apollo 11 capsule, if you were to land on that crater and spend 28 days there, you would experience a sunrise and a sunset, basically. You'd experience one full day, quote unquote, day on the moon, which is 28 days long. And it just so happens that the moon's orbit around the Earth, again, is 28 days as well. And because of that, one side of the moon always faces the Earth. It's what we call phase lock or tidal lock. And You get one side of the moon. I think it would be really cool. It might be interesting for humanity to be able to see the backside of the moon. Obviously, that's not possible unless you go around the moon like these Apollo 11 dudes, like I think Apollo 8, Apollo 10, 11, 12, 13, all of those guys at some point went around to the far side of the moon. Now, whether or not that part of the moon was illuminated, it just depended on the time that they went. And you can see there's some familiar craters and Maria down here. I can actually, let's see, click on some of this, see if it'll, okay, there's a Maria. Which one is it? Which one is it? And I'll have to pull up the info. Mare Crisium. Check that out. We're right over Mare Crisium. So at 3:03 p.m., July 19th, 1969, they would have been directly over Mare Crisium. They were probably, floating back and forth in the capsule, getting things ready. I'm not exactly sure when they started powering up the limb, but they would have had to start powering up the limb at some point to get her ready for the descent, where Buzz and Neil would have, climbed down the tunnel, sealed the hatch, began getting everything ready to detach from the command service module, and then begin their descent down onto the surface of the moon. So this is Mare Crisium we're flying over right now. Mare Crisium is a famous sea because we can see it from the Earth, and so it's definitely one of those ones that we always check out. This is a weird perspective to see Mare Crisium in. I mean, you can see it; it's this big gray area right in here. It's got a few craters inside it that I might be able to click on. There's Picard. Captain Jean-Luc Picard. I'm just kidding. That crater is probably named after a scientist. In fact, I can find out. Whoops. Uh-oh. And we're back. We're back in normal time. So let me. I know what happened. There we go. Let's see if I can pull up the info on this crater. And it just says feature on the moon. Here we go. Oh, it is actually Jean Picard, French astronomer who lived between the years of 1620 to 1682. See, every crater on the moon has a name. We all know that, right? I mean, most every crater, if it's a small enough crater, it may be called Picard A or B if there was a bunch of little craterlets around here. It's just going to be named whatever the massive crater is next to them. And this one just happens to be 22 kilometers across, named after Jean Picard, a French astronomer. It's pretty cool. Hello, Courtney Project. Thank you. Not sure what the Facebook issues were. I'm just, again, all this is a big experiment. I'm just having fun playing with this stuff. I figured, look, right now, if we were 50 years ago at this exact moment in time, this is where the Apollo astronauts would have been. I think that's pretty cool to be able to do that. Sky Safari Pro is the software that I'm using to do this. It is a little bit glitchy with this Apollo stuff, like I've been saying, but overall, I give it a 7 out of 10 for sure. Maybe 7.5 or 8. Facebook is drunk. It needs to go home. It needs to call an Uber. So we're leaving Mare Crisium behind. There it goes. Mare Crisium. I show that a lot in my Facebook Lunar lives, which is pretty cool that we're able to see that. There's good old Earth with the moon. Now we're coming up on some really famous Maria here. It looks like maybe this is Rupus Recta or one of the straight walls. Let's see if I can click on it. It does. Again, it's glitchy. It doesn't want me to click on these craters to find out what they are. It's Rupus Kashi. So that one stumps me or fools me every time. I think it's the straight wall, but it's actually the straight Kashi, whatever that is. It says Rupus on the moon. It's a scarp. I'm not exactly sure what a scarp is. Okay, I wish it would stop doing that. There we go. I didn't know that Sky Safari Pro had these tabs at the top, which you can go to, like now, or you can go to a simulation you're running. Learn something new every day, right? So 50 years ago, to the second, this is where the Apollo astronauts would have been. Fantastic stuff. For all the issues that I'm having, for all the weirdness that's going on, this is still pretty cool. And here's the Sea of Tranquility, guys. This is where Buzz and Neil are about to go. It won't be this orbit. So they've been in orbit around the moon, from my calculations here, for about 3 or so hours, 2.5, 3 hours. They entered the lunar orbit, I think it was around noon today, noon Central Time. Again, noon Central Time today, 50 years ago on July 19th, 1969. We're at 2019, and we are where they would have been in those days. It's pretty cool. So this is where they're headed, Neil and Buzz. Now I'm looking for the Apollo 11 landing site, actually, but I don't quite see it. So again, at this point of their orbit, they've just sort of they've been in orbit around 3 hours. They're probably getting stuff ready to head down to the surface. You can see we're coming up on the Terminator, it looks like, where the dark side of the moon is, or the far side, the side that the sun can't touch. We've got Venus and Earth right over there. So we're on the Earth side of the moon right now. kind of orbiting around. Let's see if I can find that Apollo 11 landing spot. I have it memorized now, actually, which is pretty cool. The cool thing about the moon, y'all, is if you if you study it enough, if you just keep looking and memorize this stuff, eventually you'll know it forever and you'll never lose that information unless you forget it, right? Um, I don't see what I call the lunar Texas and the Moltke crater. I'm looking. We are exactly over Mare Tranquillitatis, which is the Sea of Tranquility, which is where they were going when they were landing on the moon. Why I can't see it, I don't know. We must just be just out of sight for it. And you can see as slow as this looks like we're moving, we're actually moving pretty quickly, um, relatively to, sort of the moon's movement and sort of galactic stuff on a solar system timescale. We're booking. I'm not exactly sure what speed they would have been, but I know we are right now with this little space capsule. We're about 1,200 miles above the surface of the moon. 1,250, give or take. I'm reluctant to enter a name up here. Let's just do it because I can always reset this stuff. Moltke. Aha. So there is the lunar landing spot for Apollo 11. There we go. Perfect. I can just center it up. You might be seeing these big fuzzy patches and be like, what in the world is that? Those are the Large and Small Magellanic Clouds. They are two galaxies that are being currently consumed by the Milky Way. And we can't see them from the northern hemisphere. If you're lucky enough to live in Australia, South Africa, South America, those kind of places, you can definitely see the Large and Small Magellanic Clouds. Bucket list item for me there is to get down south and go check those out. All right, y'all. So the Apollo 11 landing site is somewhere off in this region down here by the Moltke crater. You can see that as of right now, as of 3:12 p.m., July 19th, 1969, okay, which is again 50 years ago to the second, basically, they're still hooked up. They're still command module, service module, and LIM all together. So they're probably going to go around maybe once or twice more, orbit the moon once or twice more, and that's going to, give them enough time to get everything ready, get the LIM ready, get the crew ready, power everything up, and get down to the surface right next to that Moltke crater. And I'll go ahead and switch it around here. Let's see if I can twist it. Might get a little motion sickness here, guys. There we go. You got to kind of work with the Sky Safari app sometimes. Sometimes it's not exactly right. Yeah, the Apollo 11 landing site is out in here somewhere. Right in here. This is where they're headed. This is where they're at. So I'm assuming that these guys, Neil and Buzz and Michael, they knew where they were going. They've worked this mission 900 times, every different way. They failed it. They did it successfully in the simulations and stuff. So they know where they're going at this point. And they're working on right now, 50 years ago, they're working on getting everything ready to disconnect and head on down. Why they did these extra orbits, I'm not exactly sure. There's got to be a reason for it. Um, obviously, you probably didn't want to drop into the lunar orbit and then immediately disconnect and go do your thing. Um, it's probably a good idea like this to just orbit the moon a little bit and get your bearings. There's probably, a math reason why they weren't doing things exactly, you know, quickly. Let's see if I can get Moltke back here. There we go. Yeah, so again, Apollo 11 landing site. This is where they're headed, and they'll be making their way down in a few hours, I believe. You can see Canis Major over here. Got the bright star Sirius right here. And so that must mean Orion is right there. Look at that. You got Betelgeuse, Rigel down here. And the belt stars are Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. Very, very famous, obviously, famous constellation. Everybody knows Orion, right? It looks like we're about to say goodbye to Moltke and the Apollo 11 landing site. I don't see any lights on in the command module, so maybe everybody's asleep. Just kidding. That it's not that detailed. I'm wondering why this door is highlighted like this. I don't know if that's just one of the glitchy things about this software or if that's, has some sort of purpose. You got me. So it looks like the astronauts are in the shadow of the moon. I believe these are the Sabine and Ritter craters. Yes, Sabine is right here next to Ritter. These are two pretty famous craters. I mean, they're on the Sea of Tranquility. Everybody likes to look at the Sea of Tranquility. There's Sabine, and Ritter is next to it. If you're doing the Astronomical League's Lunar 1 award, both of those are on there, I believe. So you can put the telescope on the Sea of Tranquility, grab those two craters with your eyeball, log them down, and you've just logged two items on the Astronomical League's list. It's pretty cool. That's kind of what that list is. You know, you look at the moon with a telescope and you figure out what crater's what Maria or what sea is what, and you just start logging everything down. It's a real basic program, but it's super fun. It'll really kind of educate you on the moon, and it was a fun award. I feel like it made me appreciate the moon a little more. I've always had kind of a love-hate relationship with the moon because I'm a deep sky dude, right? I mean, that's all in the name. I love deep sky objects. I love star clusters, nebula, planets. Well, not planets, sorry. I do love planets, don't get me wrong, but you know what I'm saying? Deep sky stuff, galaxies, all that fun stuff that's out there. So the moon, when the moon is up, it's so bright, even when it's in a crescent phase, it can affect your not only your night vision, but it can affect the sky too. When the moon is full, everybody knows you go outside and the sky is just extremely bright. The ground is illuminated. If you're at an actual dark sky site where there's no ambient light pollution everywhere, you, you know, the full moon just incinerates the night sky. So for a long time, I just didn't really care for the moon. Uh, I had seen it enough as a kid, putting binoculars on it and getting kind of frustrated with the stable view and things like that. Stuff everybody goes through when they're trying to learn astronomy. Um, so, but these days, for whatever reason, the past maybe year or so, I've really, I've really kind of come around on the moon. Like I really feel like I've developed an infatuation with it. It's a different object. It's not deep sky objects at all. I mean, even though the moon is a quarter of a million miles away, you could definitely consider it deep sky. It doesn't quite fit the bill for when you're talking about galaxies that are, 2.5 million light years away up to 150 million light years away. That's real deep sky, right? But the moon is in the sky and it's far away. So if you wanted to stretch the term, you could definitely consider it a deepish sky object. But yeah, it's a fascinating world, and what's beautiful about it is even with a small telescope, you can get up close and personal with it, unlike any other object in the milk in our solar system. You can't see Mars with the same amount of detail that you can see the moon, right? It's just too far away. You can't see Mercury with the same amount of detail. It's too far away. So the moon gives us insight onto, or definitely telling us like what craters look like on a world with no atmosphere. It gives us insight on geological processes on another world. It's just really super cool. Coming up on sunset here. You see the sun is here, and eventually it will sink below the lunar horizon as per the view of the Apollo astronauts. Very cool stuff. So again, for those of y'all just joining us, this is we're at 3:21 p.m. The simulation thinks it's July 19th, which is today, but the simulation thinks it's 1969. Um, and so because of that, it puts this little Apollo capsule out there, and you can follow it around. You can move the sky around, even though it's a little bit buggy. Still works, still does its thing. There's sunset right there. Y'all check it out as it just slowly slips over the horizon of the moon. I would assume right here it would get eerily dark. On sunset on Earth, right, we have the atmosphere to help scatter the light. So even though the sun is below the horizon, well below the horizon now, it would still be daylight. It would still be, if you were standing on the surface of the Earth and this was happening like this here, it would be sunset. It would be bright everywhere. But since you're orbiting around the moon, um, you can see that there's no atmosphere. Obviously, there's no atmosphere. So it would have gotten dark immediately, like just like probably like dropping a curtain over the whole shebang. And we'll watch Mercury set there, and then I'll pan around and show you guys where the Earth is, which we're actually on the Earth side of the moon right now, I believe. So in a little while, we'll be able to watch Earth set. On Facebook, I was able to show Earth set about an hour ago, but the audio real bad on Facebook. I'm not exactly sure what the problem was. There may have been some kind of um, wires in my computer getting crossed because I didn't really change much. This is just all I did was restart the computer and everything seemed to be working again. So there's Mercury set. Now we're in complete pitch black darkness. You notice we've got Venus over here though. We've got Taurus the bull, constellation Taurus, a star called Aldebaran right here. This star right here, Aldebaran, is 66 light years away. Just to give you kind of an idea. You've got Orion down here. Everybody knows Orion, familiar with Orion. Oh, look, there's Saturn. We got the Seven Sisters, or the Pleiades over here. And look at there. There's Earth. And so it looks like, yeah, if this is 3:24 p.m., this is Central Standard Time, by the way. It's 1969 on July 19th. You can see right where the Earth would have been. And, here we are, the United States. You can see right here is Houston area where I'm at. So it makes sense, right? We've got the terminator of the Earth, which is everything on this side of that terminator is nighttime. Everything on this side is daytime. And we've got the moon on this other side of us. Right here, we're about 1,200 miles above the moon, give or take a few miles. So I don't know. Maybe drop in the comments here, guys, if y'all want to see the Earth side, or if you want to look back towards Earth, if you want to look back towards the moon. It's up to y'all. I'll let y'all decide. Pretty good animation though, while y'all are figuring that out on these on the service module and the limb. This gold foil that you see on the limb is not actually gold foil. It's colored gold. I believe it was mylar, but again, if you're an Apollo expert, you can correct me on that. But all it served to do was protect everything on the inside of that part of the limb, which is your fuel. There's two big canisters of fuel, one on one side, one on the other. You got a fuel and an oxidizer for the lunar engine, the lunar excursion module engine. Sorry. These legs at some point will extend into their landing configuration. Right now, they're sort of tucked. They had to tuck these legs in so that they would fit inside the Apollo Saturn V rocket. Without tucking the legs in, it wouldn't have fit. So they tucked those in. 3 human beings would have been aboard this spacecraft right now. Let's put it on the sun side of this thing. It looks a little cooler. Even though that's not actually cooler. It's just looks cooler. It would have been hotter on this side. Any part of the spacecraft that faces the Earth would have been heating up tremendously. And so they would probably be rotating this on its own axis like this, very slowly. Although again, I'm not exactly sure we'd be even seeing the lunar capsule from here, because I'm pretty sure we're on the dark side of the moon now, or the far side of the moon from the sun. We're actually on the Earth side, the part that always faces Earth. So this is just the dark part where the sunlight can't reach. And I doubt there would have been much sunlight on the actual spacecraft itself. But on the way to the moon, they had to do what was called a barbecue roll, kind of like a rotisserie chicken, right? You've got it in this really hot environment. You got to rotate the chicken to keep it from burning on one side, and if you can keep it rotating, it'll cook evenly. So that's what they wanted to do with the barbecue roll all the way to the moon. Basically, just rotate the spacecraft so that a new side of the spacecraft faces the sun at all times. And that keeps it from heating up. It keeps it from heating up too much. It keeps all the systems cool. I guess it would keep the astronauts cool too. I can imagine that it would be pretty cold in space until the sunlight hits you, and then of course, it's going to be way hotter. Fascinating stuff. This is stuff they had to learn. Um, they theorized on the ground. They thought about it. They ran the numbers, and then in space, they got to sort of put practice to all that. Pretty neat stuff, man. Let's pan over here back towards Earth. There's home. Let's see how far away we are from home. If it'll let me select the Earth. There we go. You go up here to info. Go to data. We are 392,000 kilometers from Earth. Let's see if Siri can convert that for us. 392,000 kilometers in miles. So just a little bit over 243,000 miles. So just under 250,000 miles away from home, these guys were. And you can see these numbers over here going crazy because we're orbiting the moon. So things are changing constantly from the Earth's perspective. So the radial velocity is sort of changing. The total motion, apparent motion, like where the Earth appears to be in the sky, a little bit different. Carolina Sky, how are you doing, buddy? North Carolina in the house. Hope you're having a good day, man. I'm just doing a little, it's an experimentation on what is possible through YouTube. I did one of these broadcasts through Facebook, and it was just glitchy and horrible. Honestly, though, in Facebook and YouTube's defense, I should be using some sort of broadcasting software, and OBS is going to be the one that I go for. I'm just not exactly sure how to use it. I've never used it before, so it's kind of brand new for me. I'm not exactly sure how to get audio. Like right now, I'm talking to you guys, and everything is great. It's I can actually put commentary over this. All is well with the universe. In OBS, which again is a broadcasting software, I can't get my audio interface to work. I've got a really nice audio interface that I use for recording music. Over here, for whatever reason, OBS will see the software, or I'm sorry, the hardware, but it won't let it run audio through OBS. I know there's a button or a switch somewhere in that program that will show me what to do or will actually help it work. But for whatever reason, it's just not it's not in the cards, it seems. Oh, look, is this Gassendi? Oh, this is Gassendi. Look at this, y'all. This is one of my favorite craters. I just happened upon it. Let's see if I can click on it. Come on, Sky Safari. This is like click number 30 here. Ah, there we go. Gassendi. One of my favorite craters. One of the coolest craters, in my opinion, on the moon. We just left the Sea of Tranquility. The guys would have flown right over it just about 10 or so minutes ago, 10 or 15 minutes ago. So they flew right over their landing site, I think maybe 2 or 3 times. And I'm guessing that, again, they entered the moon orbit around 12:30 today, 12:30 Central Time, where I'm at. Right now, it's 3:33 p.m. Central Time, and I think they've orbited the moon maybe once. I'm sorry, maybe twice, maybe 3 times so far. And I'm not exactly sure how many times they orbit in an hour or how long an orbit takes. We could probably, calculate that. I mean, if we just took Gassendi here, one of my favorite lunar craters, and timed it and then waited until we got back around to the other side, we could see exactly how long it took for one orbit. Again, the Sky Safari Pro team has done a really good job with this. There's issues, there's maybe some inconsistencies, but overall, it seems to be working pretty well. And what a unique view that we get here. This is a live simulation of what it would have looked like right now at 3:33 p.m. Central Standard Time on July 19th, 1969. This would have been the view the Apollo astronauts had. Obviously, they'd be inside their own spacecraft, but y'all know what I mean. Let's see, I can switch it back over here to the time. You can see again 3:34 p.m. And there's the year, and we're just orbiting the moon, having a good time. We'll get to watch Venus set behind the horizon eventually, which will be pretty cool. You see Orion down here. Carolina Sky says, nice view. Thank you. Man, can you imagine Carolina though being right here, right now? Can you imagine I know these guys like Neil, Buzz, and Michael, they were probably like so jaded to the program they were running because they had ran this exact mission probably literally like 100 times. Can you imagine even being here right now? Being in orbit around the moon. You're the first humans that are about to go down and set foot on this other world for the first time ever in human history. I mean, I can imagine, being jaded to it is probably a thing. You're like, yeah, okay, great. I'm here doing the thing. I'm focused on the mission at hand. But every once in a while, I bet it would creep in for Neil and Buzz and Michael what they were doing, and that the whole world was watching, the whole world was rooting for them. Just an amazing, amazing thing. Carolina says, my favorite crater is Plato. Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. I have like maybe 15 favorites when it comes to the moon. Plato is definitely one of them. I believe Plato may have just went out of sight. It may be somewhere on the horizon here. I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to deselect Gassendi so we can actually just get a view of it. Because with that white, there's Billy. Gassendi is also one of those craters that you have to identify for the lunar program for the Astronomical League. And Billy, I believe, is also one of those craters that you have to identify, which is pretty cool. It's a unique perspective to be orbiting around the moon and see this stuff like this. You can see we've got Earth in the background now. We've got Saturn out there too. Venus is about to set behind the lunar horizon. Orion is already dipping below. Taurus is up next to go back behind there. You can see the V of Taurus, the bull. Aldebaran, that bright red star right there. And then you've got the Pleiades, which is right there. The Pleiades, this little open cluster right here, is 440 light years away from us, from the Earth and all that. And I believe the Hyades, which is this one right here minus Aldebaran, this stuff right here is about 150 light years away. So you've got 150 light years away open cluster right here. And then you've got a 440 light years away open cluster right there. Gives you a little bit of perspective, kind of shows you the depth of the universe. The stuff looks like it's all kind of out there together, but it's definitely not. It's definitely different distances from us. Whoops. It's funny when you don't mean to click on a crater, it gives it to you. There's Hanstein. Honestly, never heard of that crater. And that could possibly be because this crater may be on the edge of the moon from our perspective. Not exactly sure. You can see, though, that we can still see the Maria. All this stuff up here is Maria. Let's see if I can get it to select on that stuff and see if we can find out. It's selecting something, but it's not. Okay, there's Billy. I guess it's not going to let me select that particular C. Which is okay. Again, we're just having fun here. It's a Friday afternoon, y'all. Hope y'all are going to have a good weekend. Stay safe out there, Be responsible adults and all that fun stuff. Tomorrow is the day of days as far as Apollo 11 goes. That's the day Neil and Buzz went down there, landed a spacecraft on the moon for the first time with humans inside it, and got out and went exploring for the first time ever. pretty cool stuff, man. These two craters are interesting. Let's see if I can get them to select. Cersalis? Cersalis? Is that how y'all say that? Maybe? 44 kilometers across this crater. It's named after Girolamo? Girolamo Saralis? An Italian astronomer from the years 1584 to 1654. He was an early astronomer, that's for sure. Oh, look at this crater down here. Look at this ejecta that it's got. Let's see if we can identify this one. Virgius A. Looks like a fairly newish crater. And by newish, I mean within the last 100 million years or so. Pretty cool. And there's good old home, good old Earth. Good old Saturn over here as well. And the Earth is moving down this way because we are moving around the moon this direction, down this way. You can see Orion has completely set now. Earth is on its way to setting, which means we would lose communication with Earth. So every time the guys went around the dark side or the far side of the moon from our Earth's perspective, they would lose radio communication with mission control. So they kind of needed to know what was next, where they were in the mission program and all that to begin to to know where they were and know what part of the mission they were on. Again, so the Sea of Tranquility, where the guys were headed, is back around the other side of the moon. We've already passed it. It looked like they were a pretty good distance as far as being directly above their landing site. They were a pretty good distance away. And that may be what these extra orbits were to accomplish, were to sort of get them a little closer to where they needed to be. Again, they dropped into lunar orbit around noon Central Standard Time. It is now 3:42 p.m. Central Standard Time. The simulation thinks we're in the year 1969, but we all know we're in the year 2019, 50 years later. Watching a simulation on a computer in real time. It's pretty cool. But we're definitely on the dark side of the moon. You can see there's no sun anywhere around. You could probably see a little bit due to earth shine, which is light coming off the sun, bouncing off the earth and hitting the quote unquote dark side of the moon. And we see that from Earth all the time. We call it earth shine. I'll swing over here. Look at Jupiter and Uranus rising over here together. Look at how close they were back in those days. Very, very close. You could definitely fit that in probably one telescopic view if you had a telescope in those days. But yeah, I would imagine that this part of the moon would be sort of illuminated. The Earth would be very, very bright out here to your naked eye. It would be very, very, very bright. I'm sure you could probably see a few things, probably not anything too crazy. Again, this is a real-time thing. We're playing it back as if it were happening in real time, which is pretty cool. I appreciate y'all watching. Appreciate y'all hanging out and liking the videos, subscribing, and all that. I've never done anything quite like this before, really. I usually, if I'm going to run a simulation like this with a software, I'll usually record the screen, and do a voiceover over it and go back and edit it all up, put it in a software, make it nice, put it out there. This is more of a live hangout session, I guess you could call it that. Pan back over to Earth. We're getting pretty close to Earth set. I mean, we've got a few more minutes here. I'll keep it on that Earth-Saturn system for now. I'll probably do some more of these in the future too. I mean, like I was saying earlier, we're at 50 years for Apollo 11, and there was more missions after Apollo 11. There was Apollo 12, 13, 14, all the way up to 17. So we're going to be hitting the 50 years for all those events coming up pretty soon. There's Darwin Crater, named after Charles Darwin. Very cool. I wonder where Darwin A is. I wonder if it's this one or if it's. Let's see here. There's Darwin. Seems a little bit. I mean, it's, I guess, one of those ghost craters, huh? Been sort of covered up by other craters as time went on. I kind of like this little dark one right here. I don't know what it is. Krueger, named after Freddy Krueger, the guy who haunts your dreams. No, I'm just kidding. It's Peter Krueger, the German mathematician from 1580 to 1639. Amazing. There's Pluto, sort of popped out of the horizon there. We're only maybe a couple of hours from where the LEM, which is the Lunar Excursion module, right here, will basically seal itself off. They'll seal off the command module here. Michael Collins, the pilot of the mission, will stay inside this all by his lonesome. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin will float down the tunnel, seal everything up, get everything ready in here, and make their way down to the lunar surface solo mission style, even though there's two of them. And those dudes would have gone down there and we all know what they did. They went down, they set foot on the moon. The whole world was excited about it. They grabbed samples of rocks. They grabbed lunar dust. They grabbed all their science instruments that they had on board the LEM, and they deployed them out on the moon. All those science instruments are in this gold part of the LEM. So the Lunar Excursion module has two pieces. This is the ascent stage, the gray part right here, and this is the descent stage, the gold part right here. The ascent stage is what the only part the astronauts would have had access to. You can't get into the gold part. That part, again, is for fuel. It has the engine, which is what they would use to sort of descend down and land on the moon. And it had enough fuel to basically just to get them down to the moon, and that's it. Once they were done on the moon, they would crawl back into the LEM in the gray part here, and they would get their space suits off. They would tuck everything away for the ride up. And when they were ready, the LEM, this ascent stage of the LEM, would blast off the moon, leaving the gold part behind, which is pretty cool stuff. Pretty ingenious design, the way they did it. basically everything you see here breaks apart. This thing's going to come off later. The service module here, this is what's providing life support and fuel, and the engine to return home to get out of lunar orbit. The command module is here. It's got the 3 seats. It's the top of the Apollo rocket, the Saturn V rocket, basically. You've got the ascent stage for the lunar excursion module and the descent stage. Everything breaks apart. And the only piece that comes back is this triangular piece right here, the command module. That's the only piece that comes back. Everything else is either lost in space or burns up in the atmosphere or hits the moon or stays on the moon. There's just a bunch of different things going on here. But yeah, we were mere hours, I think, from separation, where Neil and Buzz would have floated down. Googling a little mission timeline here to see if I can. Okay. So yeah, we're still a day away. We're still 24 hours basically from lunar landing. What I'm seeing on this website that I've got here is July 20th at 1:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that would be noon, 12:11 I think here in Central. So at noon tomorrow, they would have separated from the command module, and Neil and Buzz would have, began their journey down to the surface. Then it took them every bit of 2.5 hours to get from where the command module is right here down to the surface of the moon. It says lunar landing at 3:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, that's 2:17 p.m. here in Central Time. And they began their EVA, or extra vehicular activity, which is, walking on the moon. They began that stuff 9:39 p.m. Eastern. So again, 8:39 here. So tomorrow at 8:39 p.m. Central Standard Time was when they began walking on the moon. The first step actually occurred at 9:56 p.m. Eastern. So 8:56 p.m. Central. Hey, Jimmy, how you doing, buddy? Hope you're having a good Friday. We're just checking out this lunar mission in real time. This is real time to how it would have looked at this particular stage of their mission. We've got the time and date over here. 3:53 p.m. July 19th, 1969. This right here is a very famous lunar feature that we'll never see because it is on the wrong side of the moon from Earth. You can see Earth is way over here. This would be over the horizon, so no one on Earth has ever seen, besides the guys that went around the moon. I should preface it that, but no one who has stood over here on planet Earth has ever seen this basin, which I believe it has. Okay, this is the Montes Cordillera. Montes Rook is. You see how they're nested in each other, and then there's actually a Maria here, but Mare Orientale. It's the Eastern Sea. So this would be very hard, if not impossible, to see from Earth. I'm gonna go with impossible because I've never seen it, so it must not exist, right? Hey, John Clay, how you doing, buddy? I'm gonna try, John. I'm gonna try to do it at the same time tomorrow at landing time. That would be really cool to see. I would love to be able to get some of the software that I've got working. Right now, I'm just using the traditional old YouTube broadcasting software. I tried to broadcast on Facebook. It did not go according to plan. Let's just say that. Audio was glitchy, stuff was weird. Um, so I said, hey, let me go to YouTube, try a quick broadcast here, see if it works, see if it doesn't work, see why it doesn't work, whatever. And it appears to be working. I mean, at least my audio is okay coming through here. For some reason, Facebook would not let the audio come through without glitching it. Uh, so yeah, I kind of would like to do one of these tomorrow. My idea was to just let this run all day, you know. Unfortunately, though, I have some work I need to be doing. I should have been doing right now. I've got 4 or 5 Deep Sky Dude videos to be editing right now with between, Larry Mitchell's talk at the Texas Star Party to my Obsession 22-inch telescope review video that I've had in the works for a while. Maybe there's 9 videos I need to be editing right now. But instead, I thought it would be cool to do this for just a few minutes, hang out with you guys, do a quick little broadcast here, just hang out and have some fun on a Friday afternoon. And it's not too bad. I mean, we're not exactly this isn't exactly rocket science here. This is just I'm screen capturing a software. But it is pretty cool. I appreciate you guys sharing all this. I appreciate y'all liking and following all the stuff that I do. Again, that means a lot to me. I do this stuff for fun. I do it for educational purposes, not only for you guys, but for myself too. Every time I do one of these things, whether it's a live broadcast of the moon from my telescope, or Jupiter or Saturn or whatever I'm doing that night, hanging out with you guys and doing all this stuff, it definitely helps me learn. Oh, wow, Jimmy. Man, thank you so much, brother. Wow. Love what you're doing. Keep up the good work. Man, really appreciate that. Wow, that is so cool. You're the man, Jimmy. This broadcast is dedicated to you, good sir. You're the man. You can see we're about to lose Earth into the horizon of the moon. We're going to get to watch Earth set in just a few minutes. And pan back over here. I think we should be, yep, there's Jupiter and Uranus. Look at how close they were back then, y'all. I mean, this is insanity. If you had a good enough telescope or a wide field enough telescope, I bet you could fit that in one telescopic view. And then you got Pluto up here. Kind of wish Pluto was in an area like this now. It would be a lot easier to spot photographically than where it is right now in Sagittarius. There's the constellation Leo right here. You've got the star Regulus. And then here's the tail of Leo, this little triangle of stars right here. Denebula is the name of that star, meaning tail. So you've got Leo the lion, head of the lion right here, down to his neck, and then the body and the tail of the lion. Leo's a fun constellation. It's always something good to look at. So we're getting real close to Earth set. I'll put the thing on the Earth. And we'll put date and time back up so you guys can see. Look, July 19th, 1969 is what the software thinks we're at. We are definitely 50 years from that time, which is just so cool that we can do this. Very cool. Again, Jimmy, thank you for that, for the super chat. I really appreciate that. That's fantastic stuff. I appreciate you guys supporting the channel in any way you can. If you can monetarily, that's great. That's awesome. I really appreciate you guys. If you can only like the video or share it on your Facebook, whatever, I'd appreciate that as well. Um, Tell your friends, get them over here and we'll all have a big party together, right? Marco Silva from Brazil. Maybe I should say that right. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. I would love to make it down to Brazil one day. That would be fantastic. So we're gonna lose Earth in a few minutes here. Actually, in maybe just about a minute or so. You can see how fast we're sort of losing it now as it's sort of setting this way. And actually, it's not actually setting. We're following the Apollo 11 capsule, and we're going around the moon this way, off towards the left here, which causes the moon to just slip behind the moon. And that would have been the end of all the radio communications right there. Radio waves travel in, straight lines. So if you have something blocking you, guess what? You're not in communication with mission control anymore. And you have to wait until the other side for data and radio acquisition, which takes a while. I'm not exactly sure how long you're in the dark side. We can actually test that. We can just time it. We can, we've got a clock right over here on the left. We can basically say, okay, it's, it's 4:01 p.m. right now in Central Time. And, whenever the Earth disappears, we could note that time, wait until the Earth pops up on the other horizon for Earthrise, and we'd know exactly how long it would be. Looks like we're going to be into the 4:03 p.m. range here, maybe. And as it slips behind, we'll get a better idea. I see something bright coming up here. I don't know if that's the sun or if something else. I'm not exactly sure. So let's just leave it right here and we'll watch Earth set coming up. Whoops. There we go. Again, if y'all are wondering, this is a program called Sky Safari Pro. I have it running on my Mac here. It's for Windows and iOS, I believe. So you can get it on either system. I think you can get it on Windows. I don't mess with too many Windows systems. So I'm kind of ignorant these days of what is possible and not possible on Windows. Definitely works on the Mac. So that's where I use it. I'm an Apple guy. Although they have been kind of annoying me lately with things. But I'm still an Apple guy. Nothing wrong with Windows though. Windows definitely has its purpose. If you want to game, if you want to play video games on a computer, I don't think there's really any better system than a regular old PC, Windows PC. They have better graphics cards. They have better, for the price, you can build a way more powerful computer than you can get a Macintosh. That's for sure. I just enjoy the way Macs work over PC, and I enjoy the setup. Here we go, y'all. We're gonna watch. This is exactly in real time too. This would have, if the guys on board were watching the Earth, this is exactly the speed that this would have happened at. I'm sure by now, right about here, they're gonna start losing radio communications with Earth. So you're on your own when you're on the dark side, or the far side, I should say. The dark side of the moon is kind of a misnomer, even though there is a dark side of the moon. Um, Really, when you're talking about that, you're talking about the near side and the far side. There's always one side of the moon that faces the Earth. There's always one side of the moon that faces away from the Earth. And there goes good old Earth gone for the time being. Let's see. Is that the sun? Aha. Yeah. Sunrise. We got the sun over here with Mercury. I don't have an exact mission breakdown of what they would have been doing at this particular point, but I'm assuming, they would have probably been pretty tired from this long of a flight over there. So they would have probably been maybe sleeping or doing housekeeping items like, they probably had a checklist. The mission checklist was probably 10 miles long. So they were definitely probably working on either systems, taking naps, whatever they had to do, because they won't depart with the Lunar Excursion module, which is the spidery looking thing on the bottom here. They wouldn't depart that for another, I think, 24 hours. So if we ran this simulation for another 24 hours, we would see them disconnect and start making their way down toward the lunar surface. I got a little chart here that says mission event list and timeline. And yep, I see lunar orbit insertion July 19th, 12:21 p.m. Eastern time, which would have been 11:21 here in Central. So that was several hours ago. And then the CSM, which is the command service module, and the LM, which is the lunar module, separation would have been July 20th at 1:11 p.m. Eastern time. So at noon tomorrow here in Central, or if you're on the East or West Coast, you got to kind of, move that time around a little bit. If you're international, you got to kind of move that time around based on the UTC or whatever. But that would have been the time that they would have disconnected from the service module. That means Michael Collins is alone now in the thing on the left, the big gray service module on the left. And Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin would have been in their position in the service module. I'm sorry, the lunar landing module, the LEM. They would have been over there and they would have been saying bon voyage to their buddy and making their way down to the moon. They didn't land on the moon until 3:17 p.m. Eastern. So that's a full 2 hours from the time they undock right here. 2 hours later is when they finally land on the surface of the moon. I'm assuming that they did that with the RCS thrusters, the reaction control system thrusters, which are these little guys right here. I'll zoom in here. Little gold things that look like little engines, little rocket engines. These are what we call the RCS, or reaction control system. And you can see there's this big gray panel here. So when they shot this particular thruster, it wouldn't affect the descent stage of the LEM. It would have just kind of hit this panel and blown past. And this is how they maneuver in space. Obviously, you don't have like ailerons or elevators like airplanes do on Earth. In space. That doesn't work. There's no air pressure. There's nothing flowing over them to move the spacecraft around. So instead, we have to shoot thrusters into space, and that would turn or rotate the spacecraft however they want to orientate it. And that would be, without that, you're not really controlling yourself. So I'm assuming once they undocked, they probably just use these upward thrusters to sort of push themselves down, kind of fall away from the service module, and sort of let the moon do the rest. Sort of let the moon grab them and pull them down. And get them down to the surface. Very cool stuff, man. I know this can probably kind of be a little boring for some of y'all, to see this stuff in real time, but For me, it's fascinating. I'm sure for some of y'all, it's fascinating too, or you wouldn't be here watching with me, right? um, but it is pretty cool stuff to see this in real time. I don't know of any other software that allows you to do this than Sky Safari Pro. I know that the mobile version, I was able to download all this stuff for the mobile version last night on my phone. So it seems like it works pretty well. Um, I'm getting some messages here. I'm trying to do like 4 things at once here. My ultimate goal with something like this would have been to be able to broadcast this with a little background music. I could broadcast Deep Sky Tunes Volume 1 in the background, just a little bit of light music for the background to keep things interesting. If y'all aren't sure what Deep Sky Tunes Volume 1 is, there's links in the description of this video. I put out a space music album in April, and it's on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, Deezer, all those crazy weird music services that are out there. And or if you have a Spotify account, you can go stream it under your Spotify subscription account, and um, it'll play for you. I thought it'd be cool to have that in the background, though. That'd be pretty neat. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do this. I know I'm going to try to use a software called OBS to do this. So I'll work on that later tonight and this evening and see if I can get something working. And if nothing else, maybe I'll just broadcast, the visuals with the music and no commentary, maybe. Maybe I'll just hang out in the chat with y'all, kind of watch stuff go down live. I haven't watched this simulation in real time for when they disconnect, so I'm not exactly sure what that looks like. I know when I was doing some of the Saturn V simulations with Sky Safari Pro, it was very glitchy. Stuff would just disappear, like the first stage of the Saturn V just disappears all of a sudden. You're just sort of like, okay, there it went. I guess we're on the second stage. And then the second stage would sort of disappear after you got into after they did TLI, which is translunar injection. And then all of a sudden, the command service module and the LEM were docked and they're on their way to the moon. So I was like, okay, I guess they didn't really detail that too much. So we are on the far side of the moon. We are definitely not in radio contact with Earth. Um, no one on the other side on the Earth knows where we're at, or I mean, cannot talk to us. At least they know where we're at. But what I love about the far side of the moon, guys, it's not something we ever get to see from Earth, obviously, but we're getting to see it from this perspective here. Look at these crater lines. Look at all these craters that sort of form a pretty straight line. You can see them all over the place. Then you got these right here, which are just fascinating. It looks like maybe 1, 2, 3, at least 4 or 5 objects hit this area, either near the time that the other ones did, or maybe over a period of several hours. I don't know. Maybe a period of several hundred years. I don't exactly know. I can't get it to click on that, or I could figure out what craters those are. This is Korolev. I guess it's maybe a massive crater. I can't get it to click on that crater. Okay, there's Korolev M. I'm wondering if all these craters in here are just Korolevs. Yeah, look at that. And without the circle there, look, you can kind of see that Korolev crater, right? It's this huge area. But I've always found that fascinating. On the far side of the moon, you have these crater lines, which sort of form. In my mind, that was from, a crater that had been maybe created on this side or the near side of the moon. And with the ejecta, All the stuff that whatever hit the moon blew out from the moon. Some of that escapes into space, right? But a lot of it ends up just falling back to the moon. Kind of probably look like octopus tentacles coming off the moon and sort of creating these lunar rays that we're so familiar with. But I'm sure there were big chunks of stuff. Maybe there were rubble pile asteroids that came in. Of course, we all know about the comet Shoemaker Levy 9, right? Which was a comet that had been stretched and ripped apart by Jupiter's gravity. And then in 1994, 95, that comet fell into Jupiter, all 28 or so pieces of it, all in a line, and made a bunch of scars on Jupiter. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that, one of those types of comets back way, way back when came in and laid themselves down in a row across the moon. And maybe that's what we're seeing here, but maybe it's ejecta, sort of falling back towards the moon. But you can clearly see these lines, right? Y'all can see these. This line that goes straight across here. Or maybe it's just happenstance. Maybe all these craters were not associated with each other in any way at all. This one, though, like it just it appears to me that something came in together because look at how close they are. You don't really see features like that too much on the moon, especially on like the near side or the Earth side of the moon. So who knows? If y'all know, let me know in the comments. Abdullah Al Sayedi. I probably butchered your name. I'm sorry, Abdullah. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Thank you for joining the live stream. We're in a time capsule right now. We went back 50 years to the second. It is 4:17 p.m. on the software on July 19th, 1969. And in reality, it's 4:17 p.m. Central, July 19th, but it's 2019. So we're this is a time capsule for us. It's we're sort of doing something a little different here. And it's an experiment for me. This isn't perfect. I wish it could be a little bit better. I'm gonna work on that for you guys though. And hopefully I can get it done before tomorrow. And then I can just broadcast the whole process and we'll see how that goes. I'm not exactly sure if it's going to work. I've got an outreach event tomorrow, tentatively planned. I don't know if the weather's going to cooperate though. So we're going to try and we're going to see if it'll work. Who knows? So we'll see about that. There's no moon tomorrow during the evening, so we're going to show the sun, but it's in honor of Apollo 11 doing its thing. So that'll be here locally in Beaumont, Texas. If you're in Beaumont, Texas, or around Beaumont, Texas, probably be a cool thing for you to come out. We'll be at the Beaumont Children's Museum. I would assume probably from around noon to maybe 2 or 3. Just depends. The weather may be so bad tomorrow, though, I might not even be able to go out there and do that. So we'll see. Abdullah says, I just ordered my first telescope. Nice, brother. What'd you get? Throw down in the comments what you bought. I'd love to see what you got. Let's check out this crater right here. What's this one? Icarus. Wow. I never knew. I never knew there was a crater called Icarus. Let's get some info on that one, shall we? The Greek mythical flyer. It's a circular depression, usually impact related, but maybe volcanic in origin. 94 kilometers across this thing. 94 kilometers. That's a lot of kilometers. It's at least 94 of them. Abdullah says he got the Orion SkyQuest XT6. Awesome, dude. That's a good scope. Orion definitely makes some good stuff. Um, I think if I remember correctly, that's the 6-inch Dobsonian, I believe, which is a really, really, really good telescope for the moon. For the price, I think they're around maybe $300 or $400, I think, if I remember correctly, in that size range. For the price, for the scope you get, for the ease of use, it's a manual telescope, so you're going to be pushing it around. But that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. If you know the sky, you're going to be tearing it up. Yeah. Okay. So he says it is a Dobsonian. Very good. Man, that's a great telescope to start off with. I'm not even messing with you there. That is a really good one. Um, when people ask me all the time, they say, hey, Will, what's a good telescope to buy? And it's an impossible question for me to answer because I don't know what you want to do with your telescope. I don't know if you want to do photography. I don't know how well you know the sky. I don't know what your intentions are with the telescope. So it's almost impossible for me to recommend telescopes. And what I always recommend when people ask me is go to find a local astronomical society. And almost every major city around the world has an astronomical society in it. Go join that club. The dues are usually cheap per year. And you're going to learn 90,000 times more than I can, explain to you in 10 or 15 minutes on a YouTube video or a Facebook video, right? Um, so, it's one of those things that's like you really kind of need to know the sky and just, know what you want as far as telescopes go. Do research, read videos, or I'm sorry, read articles, read reviews, look at videos on YouTube. There's so much information out there that it should be able to help you guys. Abdullah says it's $300. Yeah, it was $200 shipping to Dubai. Yeah. Whew. Yeah, but you know you've got a pretty good setup now to start checking out the moon, checking out the planets. And with a 6-inch, you can pretty much view all the Messier objects, all the M's. So if you look at star charts and stuff, all the stuff that starts with an M, should be able to see all of that no problemo. I believe we're coming up on Earthrise eventually in the next few minutes. So again, in 1969, July 19th, today, would have been a Saturday. And I can tell y'all that by going over here to this little area right here on Sky Safari. If y'all can kind of see it off to the left, you can see the year, the month, and the day, and then the hours that it is right now, which is exactly what I have here in Central Time. And I'm doing it real time. So these seconds are passing just like they should be in reality. Although I believe that it's a bit off. I'm not exactly sure it's exactly real time. I could be wrong, but I don't know. There's something about it. It seems like it's a little bit different. Luckily in Dubai, it's always clear skies. Oh, for real? Wow, I didn't know that, Abdullah. That's pretty awesome. So you guys are probably, I mean, I'm guessing it's a desert climate, but y'all have a pretty dry skies up there, and that's pretty cool, man. Nothing wrong with that. I hope you get some good use out of it, Abdullah. I'm hoping you kind of know, or at least familiar with collimation, getting your mirrors and your telescope aligned properly. It's not too hard. There's plenty of, like I said, YouTube videos on stuff like that online. If you move your telescope around a lot with any Dobsonian, with any reflector telescope, um, your mirrors are going to have a tendency to shift around a little bit. It's not going to be too bad, but you may, as you use the telescope, or even in shipping, it got your UPS guy or whoever delivered it to you. I can guarantee you did not care that there was a multi-$100 telescope inside that box. They're just trying to get their stuff done so they can get off work and go home, right? So during that process, sometimes you'll get shifting of the mirrors. And so you're going to need at some point some kind of collimation device, whether you go with the laser collimator or the Cheshire eyepiece, whatever the case may be. And that way you can get your mirrors in alignment. Your primary mirror, the mirror at the back of the telescope, at the bottom, if you will, of the telescope, that has to be perfectly aligned with your secondary mirror, which is the mirror up at the top of the telescope that sort of angles the light over into the focuser. Those two mirrors have to be exactly pointed at each other for you to get a real tight focus. And so, Abdullah, what you may notice when you go out with your scope, if the mirrors aren't collimated correctly, you may still be able to see stuff like Jupiter, Saturn, the moon, an open star cluster, or whatever, but you may not be able to get it focused just right. It may look like the telescope is messed up. No matter what you do with the focus knob, you may not be able to get it just right. And that's going to be due to those mirrors not being aligned in a column or collimated. Um, Again, there's dozens of videos on, maybe hundreds of videos now on YouTube about that. The laser method for me is the preferred method. That's the one I prefer. It's just fast. It's easy. Um, you put the laser collimation device in where your eyepiece goes. You turn it on. It shoots a laser from the focuser into or onto the secondary mirror and then down onto the primary. And Abdullah, on your primary mirror, there should be a little donut, a little circular piece of sticker set down there that has a hollow center. So it's just a little donut down there. That should tell you where the center of your mirror is. And that's going to tell you where that laser dot needs to be. So what you do is you go up to your secondary mirror and you start turning those screws until your laser beam is right on the center of that donut. That's step one. And it's not too hard. It just takes a little bit of time, maybe a few minutes every time you set your telescope up. Once you get that laser in the center of that donut and everything is good, that means your secondary mirror is pointed directly at the center of your primary mirror. So now you need to go back to the back of the telescope, to the back of the primary mirror at the bottom, and you need to adjust the bottom. There should be 3 screws down there. You should adjust those 3 screws until that laser beam goes back in on itself. And so what I mean is, usually a lot of those laser collimators are going to have a little window that shows you the return beam, because the laser is going to bounce. It's going to come out of the laser. It's going to bounce off the secondary, go down to the primary, bounce back up to the secondary again, and over into the laser or the focuser. And the object here is to get that laser to where you only ever see one dot on the secondary, and you're returning the red laser beam into the hole that it's coming out of. I hope that makes sense. And once you've done that, you're collimated, which means your telescope is going to give you the most crisp, amazing views that you'll ever get. And once you do that, man, I'm telling you, you're gonna be like, wow, this scope is amazing. Orion puts out pretty decent stuff. They really, really do. Um, they're hit or miss with some of the things, but with those Dobbs that they have, they do a really, really good job. So you made a good choice. I think you're gonna love it. And hey, if you ever have any questions, message me on Facebook or Instagram, Deep Sky Dude. I'll be happy to walk you through the process, or I'll find a video for you that could help explain it maybe better than I could. So good luck to you, sir. I hope you enjoy that scope. I know you will once you get it working. It's going to be you're going to kill the sky with it. You're going to see all kinds of cool stuff. Wait till the fall. Wait till the constellation down here, Orion. You see this constellation right here? That central, so this is Orion's belt, right? The 3 stars that go across. Everybody knows Orion's belt. And Orion's sword is right here. If you point your telescope at that middle star, this one right here at the tip of my pointer, with your telescope, you're going to look at an object called Messier 42 or M42. It's the Orion Nebula. And dude, I'm telling you right now, that view and that little scope, it's going to blow your mind, brother. Hey, no problem, Abdullah. Anything I can do to help, man, let me know. I enjoy sharing where I'm at in astronomy, which I'm not an expert, and I say that in like all my videos. Basically, I'm just a guy with a telescope who enjoys sharing this stuff. I'm not an expert, but I have been around the block a few times. So if there's a problem you encounter, I can probably help you, and if I can't, I can find people who will be able to help you. So that's my mission here at Deep Sky Dude, is to get more people observing the sky, more people interested in astronomy, show the world what we do at star parties. I'm not sure if many of y'all are familiar with the channel here, but I do these massively long, hour and a half long sometimes, star party recaps where I go to star parties like the Texas Star Party or the Okie-Tex Star Party, El Dorado, any of those ones that I go to, and I just film while I'm there. I'm walking around the daily activities or the nightly activities, and I'm like, ooh, that looks cool. Let me film that for a few seconds. And then I do that. And then maybe I take a few pictures and stuff like that. And all that goes into those videos. So if you've ever wondered what it's like to attend a star party here in the States, hopefully I can bring some awareness to that and show you guys what it's like, because it is something special. That's for sure. And again, shout out to Jimmy Dabul. Thank you for the super chat, man. That's super awesome. I appreciate that. Supporting the channel in that way. If you guys can't support the channel monetarily, I totally understand that. It is not required to be a deep sky duder. All that's required is you subscribe and hang out with me from time to time, and that's all the support that you if you can give me that, that's what I'll take, man. I love having you guys hang out with me, sharing the videos over on the Facebook, sharing the live streams that I do of the moon and that kind of thing. You guys are awesome. You guys have helped me expand not only the YouTube channel, but my Facebook as well. I'm well over 2,500 followers on Facebook, and that's because of you guys. Oh, look, here comes Saturn peeking over the horizon. There it is. We just witnessed Saturn rise in real time from the moon. Earth is next. Earth is probably maybe down here or so, and it's slowly moving this way. So we'll see it in a few minutes. But again, I like to take a few seconds every time I do a live stream to thank you guys for watching. Thank y'all for participating. Thank y'all for sponsoring the Patreon, or just dropping some in the super chat. You guys are awesome, and I really appreciate y'all helping me out here. Anything that comes in from this channel as far as monetary or through the Patreon or whatever, I'm turning that all back into astronomy gear so that I can do more live streams in the future, better live streams. I've got some ideas in the future on how to broadcast the Messier objects from my telescope live on Facebook. It's going to require some night vision. It's going to require some machining on my part. I'm going to have to get some of my machinist friends involved to make me some adapters to attach the night vision to an eyepiece so that we can view this stuff. But it's all in the works. I've already started talking to engineer friends of mine who are already experts in all the night vision fun stuff. And so eventually, yeah, I will be able to broadcast deep sky objects like galaxies, star clusters, nebula, whatever the case may be. I'll be able to broadcast it live on Facebook and show you guys, this stuff in real time, not just the moon. That's what I do now. I do the moon mostly. I'll do Saturn as well, whatever's up in the sky. I enjoy broadcasting all that stuff. And I think people enjoy it too. I get crazy amounts of shares, crazy amounts of comments, so much love from you guys and gals. I really appreciate it, man. It's super awesome. I'm just a guy with a telescope, and I've been in astronomy. I've been doing astronomy since I was about 10 years old, maybe a little bit earlier. Maybe, somewhere in there, I learned that there were other planets in the solar system, and that was pretty much the end for me. I had to know all about everything. And I'm 36, so I've been doing this for a little over 25 years. Just obviously not broadcasting like this for 25 years. I've just been studying the sky, the moon, the planets for that long. Been able to pick up on lots of cool knowledge along the way. And my mission at this point in my life is simply to share it. And again, I don't expect you guys to support the channel monetarily. So please don't feel obligated. If you can, that's great. If you can't, that's also great. I'm not in this to get rich. If I was, I would have probably quit astronomy a long time ago, cuz astronomy is one of those hobbies that you can spend all of your life savings on and still need more equipment to get it done properly. Oh, there's a new eyepiece that just came out, or there's a new telescope that just came out, a new mount that tracks the sky better than anything ever before. There's always something new coming out. There's always, something going on. So there's an infinite amount of ways you can spend your money if you want to. You could definitely go broke uh, playing with astronomy, but the rewards you get back from the money you spend on this hobby are priceless. I've seen all the Messier objects with my eye, all 110 Messier objects I've seen with my eyeball. Um, that took a few years of me studying the sky, knowing where these things were, trying to find them, then actually stumbling upon some or finding them on purpose. And so, I can't even put that into monetary terms. Like, me being able to see all the Messier objects is priceless, you know? Me being able to see the 400 brightest Herschel objects, which is what we call the Herschel 400. I completed that a couple of years ago, and um, it was 400 objects long. It took me 4 years to do that. So took forever, but I've seen galaxies and stuff that most people on the planet have never seen and never will ever. Um, so it's pretty special. So I'm getting messages and text here. I'm trying to respond to people a little bit. We should be coming up on Earthrise pretty soon. And then after we get to Earthrise this time around, I'll probably go ahead and end this live stream. But I do want to do another one tomorrow when sort of the whole landing process happens. Because we're going to be orbiting the moon. If we just sat here and watched this for real, y'all, for the next like 24 hours or 23 hours, we're going to be orbiting the moon. That's it. We're just going to be doing this right here for the next 23 some odd hours if we run the simulation in real time, which I think there's some value in that. I could speed time up easily. It would be easy to speed time up. Um, it gets a little disorienting though, because the camera wants to stay kind of where it is. And so you end up like flipping around the module, and then the moon's flipping around you, and everything gets kind of crazy. It gets kind of disorienting. So, but watching it in real time like this, how it would have happened for the astronauts going around the moon is pretty special. And it's something I think you can only really do with Sky Safari Pro. I haven't seen another app that does what this does. I mean, maybe you guys can educate me. Maybe there's some other software that does this. I don't know. Okay, there goes Mars. We see Mars back here setting. It'll set behind the moon. We got Neptune out there chilling, doing its thing, doing its gas giant thing way out there. You see the Sun and Mercury over here together. We got Venus, Saturn, constellation Taurus, which is the bright star Aldebaran. Let's select Saturn here for a second. Let's see how far we are from Saturn. We should be about 800 million miles, I believe, from Saturn. Yeah, 140. I'm sorry, 1.4 billion kilometers. Is that right? Yeah. So let's see. Let's ask Siri how far that is. 1.4 billion kilometers in miles. 9,919,669.13 miles. Thank you, Siri, for that incredibly specific answer. It's 869 million miles. 870 million miles is how far you would be from Saturn if you were in this command module right here. That's a long walk. That would be a walk to remember. It's the constellation Aries, which I don't see. Oh, there's Aries, right? Is this Hamal? Let's see if this is Hamal. Hamal, there it is. So this is Aries the Ram right here. It's hard to pick out the constellations sometimes. What I can do, actually, is turn the constellations on. Boom. There we go. There's Pegasus. We've got Perseus over here, Taurus down here. This is the end of Cephas, the whale. Of course, we have Orion over here. We've been looking at Orion pretty much all day. This is Eridanus, this long snake-like sort of thing. We've got Lepus, the rabbit down here. And Pisces. Here's Pisces right here. Got this big long V. It goes sort of up this way. That's Pisces. For some reason, ancient astronomers saw that as a fish. I don't get it. You can see Triangulum right here. It's definitely a triangle. What else we got? There's Cygnus, like I was saying before. We've got Cassiopeia, this little W shape over here. Very cool. This blackish, hole-ish looking thing is actually where Messier 31 would be. M31. I'm not sure why it's not illustrated, but maybe it's glitched out or something like that. Sky Safari Pro is a great app, but it does have some issues here and there. These are all southern constellations down here, basically. If you live in the southern hemisphere, you'll get these constellations. But if you don't live in the southern hemisphere, you'll never see these constellations. They'll never come above your horizon. That's the Large Magellanic Cloud, a galaxy that is being consumed by this galaxy, this big, bright band of stars, which is our own Milky Way. Pretty cool stuff. So I don't know. What do y'all think? Constellations on or off for the last few minutes of this? Y'all want the constellations on or off? Y'all vote in the chat, and we'll make it happen. We are getting very close to Earthrise. In fact, I'm going to cheat a little bit. Go up here to the search bar of Sky Safari. Oh, it's in Pisces, which we know this is Pisces, right? So the Earth is going to pop up any second now. Look at that. Oh, it's so close. Let's unselect it so we get surprised by it. We'll go over here to Mincar. I'm gonna zoom in so we get a nice little shot of this. And that will be where I conclude today's festivities as far as this particular live cast goes. Now, tomorrow, again, if I can get that software running and get everything working correctly, I will be broadcasting during the era of where they're going to separate the command module from the LEM and head down to the surface. And I want to say that's around noon or so tomorrow on a Saturday. So hopefully if you guys are around, y'all can check that out. Maybe give it a share on Facebook or wherever, whatever social media platform you use. I would appreciate that. And if I can get that software running, there should be no reason why I can't broadcast to both, broadcast to YouTube and to Facebook at the same time, which, is possible, but I haven't been able to quite get everything working yet. It's a little weird. So instead of "Here Comes the Sun," like the Beatles song says, here comes the Earth. Do. There it is. Boom. Sweet. Let's turn the constellations off just for a second here. Let's turn the orbits off too. Oh boy. That's not what I meant to do. How do I fix this? Let's do this. Wow. Okay. Well, that didn't work out, did it? Oh, you know what? Maybe if I orbit it. How about that? That is a pretty cool feature about this program. You can do cool stuff like that, which is pretty neat, although it does have us facing the wrong way here. I don't know why. I guess maybe we're on Apollo 11 now, and time has definitely stood still. That's going to happen. You hit the wrong button every now and again. That's the way she goes, though. There's Earthrise over the moon. You can see the United States right here, where I'm located right in there-ish. And we're turning this way toward the right-hand side of the moon, toward the darkness. So it'll be, eventually in a few hours, it'll be dark here on Earth. And because again, we're running this simulation in real time, but we're 50 years in the past. So it's July 19th, just like it's here now, 1969, though. And this is what it would have kind of looked like for the Apollo astronauts to be doing what they're doing. John Clay asks, do you sell any Deep Sky Dude merchandise like t-shirts or coffee mugs? Absolutely, I do, actually. In fact, let me get that website for you if you're interested. Let's see, teespring.com/stores/deepskydude. What I can do is link that here in the video for y'all if y'all are interested. Just some preliminary designs up there right now. These are kind of the first wave of the Deep Sky Dude merchandise. The only reason I created Deep Sky Dude merchandise at all is because several of you guys that watch me on Facebook and stuff like that were asking for it. I don't think it was something I would have ever done just because, like, it's, I was like, ooh, I'm going to make t-shirts. No, it was something that one of the guys, one of my hardcore fans, I'll call him Mark Jackson. He was like, man, you've got to create coffee mugs and t-shirts and stuff. And I'm like, okay, man. Okay. One day. And then after maybe like 5 or 6 times of him begging for this stuff, I was like, all right, look, I'm going to go out there and create a few shirts and a few t-shirts. If you like them, pick them up. And the coffee mug and all that, all those designs are all hand drawn by me. I drew them on my iPad, and they're of James Webb Space Telescope or of my Obsession 22 telescope, or there's like a research grade telescope on an equatorial mount that you can get. They say Deep Sky Dude on them and all that kind of stuff. So there is that kind of stuff you can grab. Um, it's just fun stuff, you know. It's not. I'm not taking this stuff too seriously because you know um, I haven't really saw the sort of the need for merchandise as it goes. But I appreciate you asking, John. I always forget to mention that that's even there. I need to put that down in the description of my videos from here on out. But I'm not the best at sort of like self promotion. To me, self promotion, I don't really care for it because um, I don't know. You know I'm just not geared that way. I guess I'd rather share the information and have you guys enjoy it and whatever. But there is that avenue if you want to support me. You can buy a coffee mug or a T-shirt or whatever you like, and have it forever. Have a piece of Deep Sky Dude history, I guess, whatever that means. But I appreciate y'all if y'all do go out and pick up a coffee mug or a T-shirt. That means the world to me. And if you do and you get one, send me a picture of it, and I'll share that with the Facebook group, which has or a Facebook page, which has again over 2,500 followers. Thanks to y'all. Y'all have shared me and gotten me out there to all your friends and colleagues, and so I've got a really nice following over there. And I upload pictures and video from time to time and stuff like that. So if you're not following the Deep Sky Dude Facebook page, go over to facebook.com/Deep Sky Dude. Give me a follow there. I'm on Instagram as well. Don't update the Instagram as much, but I'm trying to get better at this whole social media thing. Again, I created the YouTube channel simply as a place to put all the videos that I was creating about astronomy. And I was creating most of those videos for my local astronomical group, the Astronomical Society of Southeast Texas, which is a group of amateur astronomers here in Beaumont, Texas. And, we have meetings once a month. We go out and observe together and things like this. So it was stuff that I was creating for them, slideshows and videos of star parties and that kind of thing. And I was like, well, I should put these on YouTube, you know? And then I started putting them on YouTube, and then people started watching them, and they were like, more, we want more, like make a video about this. So I was like, okay, I'll make a video about that, and kind of that was in like 2016. And here we are, 2019, about 3 years later. I'm still kind of doing that whole thing. I've just kind of I was like, if I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to up my game. I'm going to get better music. I'm going to do better video. I'm going to try to get better pictures. I'm going to try to do better live streams like this one, and my goal is to always make it better. And, the merchandise was one of those things that was just like, well, I guess it kind of does help make it better a little bit. Um, and again, I would have never done it unless you guys asked for it. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys subscribing to the YouTube channel or to the Facebook page. I appreciate the likes and the comments. I appreciate the super chats. Thank you again, Jimmy. You're the man. I really appreciate that. That's the most super chat I've ever gotten from anyone ever. So you're the first person to sort of do that. Although I have gotten super chats from my friends like Mark Farage and Courtney and a few other people out there that enjoy what we're doing here. So again, I appreciate all of y'all. And if you can't support me by buying a coffee mug or listening to my album on Spotify or downloading it on iTunes or whatever, then just subscribe to the channel. That's good enough as it is. If one day you're like, you know what, I'm going to buy his album, do that. I would love that. I've got another Deep Sky Tunes album coming out, and since there's 7 of us here, I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all when that next one is coming out. It's gonna be in September. Deep Sky Tunes Volume 2. I'm working on recording the songs right now. I'm well over probably halfway recording it. I kind of had a computer death In between there, my old Mac Pro, I say my old, I got it in 2016 or so. That computer kicked the bucket, unfortunately. And the video card is apparently welded to the CPU, and the video card was going out. So I lost that computer. Luckily, I had a backup, believe it or not. I had a backup computer that I could go ahead and plug in and start downloading all my software again back on there. So that's really slowed me down over the past week and a half or so. But I'm just now bouncing back from that computer death, and I'm able to kind of do live streams again and make videos again. I blame the Texas Star Party video. I guess I think that's what killed it. It was too much for that computer to handle, apparently. But honestly, in real life, I think it was just the video card was just going out on Apple. As good of a company as they are, they produced some bad video cards during a period, and I was unlucky enough to get one that didn't go out before the warranty did. So thanks a lot, Apple. Really appreciate you guys. I hope y'all can detect the sarcasm in that, because they really did. Um, they really screwed me over with that. They really, really did. And the video card in this other machine that I had sort of in my wife's writing studio, this video card is kind of acting weird. Now, it is under warranty until like December of this year. So I'm not exactly sure if hopefully if it's going to go out on me, it goes out within the next few weeks. So I'm trying to push it to the limit. I'm running flight simulator softwares on here. I'm doing crazy video stuff coming up. I got lots of Deep Sky Dude videos coming out soon. And I'm just trying to push it to the limit to see if I can break it. To see if they, then they'll have to replace my sound card or video card. So it seems like, there's never, when it comes to the technology and computers, there's never a dull moment, and it's never just going to work properly. There's always going to be some issue, even with Apple products. As sad as it is for me to say that, back in the day, 5 years ago, I would have never said those words. I'd have said, Apple is perfect. It's infallible. There's no reason to not trust it. But I've been screwed by Apple more than a few times now. So I'm not necessarily a happy customer anymore. I don't even know if I would recommend anybody to buy an Apple computer at this point. I'm kind of so angry about that whole computer situation. So if somebody from Apple is out there listening, help me, and I'll turn that whole position around. I'll I'll retract everything I just said if someone from Apple comes and helps me. But I don't think they're gonna. They're way too rich. They don't care about us little guys, I don't think. So there's my rant about Apple. I'm sure you guys wanted to hear that, but I feel like I had to explain why there was a kind of a break in the videos here on YouTube, at least because of that computer death. And it was very catastrophic for me. I had to boot it in safe mode and back up all my files. I almost lost everything. Luckily, I keep most everything important on external hard drives, but there were some files that I almost lost on that computer. Songs that I had written that were demo tracks and things like that I could have never got back. Never. So, but everything worked out sort of in the end, and kind of all is well with the universe. So, but again, I appreciate you guys watching. We're watching the real-time recreation of 50 years ago, what it would have looked like if you could have been in orbit around the moon with the Apollo 11 astronauts at 4:57 p.m., 4:58 now p.m. on July 19th. It would have been 1969. 50 years ago today. Pretty incredible stuff. I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. I really appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys sharing these live videos and sharing the other videos as well. You guys rock. Thank y'all for watching. Again, follow my Facebook. I do live streams of the moon through my telescope over there. So it's actual live streams of the moon in real time. or maybe Jupiter or Saturn, whatever is up. I do those pretty regularly. It just depends on weather and where that stuff is in the sky. Right now, the moon doesn't come up until around midnight or so. So it's not really. I mean, I'd be doing a broadcast at like 2 in the morning, which I'm sure there would be some international viewers, but most of everybody in the States is in bed by that time. Um, so more of those coming as we get, past new moon into the first quarter crescent and all that. There'll be some of those coming. Um, Thanks for the subscribes. Thanks for the likes and shares, guys. Y'all rock. I really appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful Friday. Hopefully, we'll see you tomorrow again for another live stream, kind of showing the undocking procedures and watching the astronauts get ready to go down and touch the moon live. We're going to watch that simulation tomorrow. Hopefully, if everything goes to plan, we'll see. Um, y'all have a great Friday, great afternoon, great weekend. If I don't see you, yeah, I don't think there's anything else I forgot. So again, appreciate y'all. Y'all have a wonderful evening, and we'll see y'all on the flip side. Peace out, y'all.